The business of medicine is constantly changing. The review by Resolve discusses current contract issues for physicians, compensation trends, and tips for a successful career. Every physician's contract and career is different, and nothing in this episode should be considered legal advice. If you have specific questions about your career, please consult with an attorney. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the review. Here today with Skyler Mickelson, one of the attorneys that works with Resolve and our clients. We're going to hit a topic today that I think it can cause some heartburn for physicians and is sometimes misunderstood. And it's going to be termination, specifically termination for cause issues. And so, Skyler, I guess let's start out. What is termination generally in a contract? What's termination with cause, without cause? Give us a little high-level breakdown on that.
Sure. Short of a contract expiring by its term, there's termination for cause or without cause. Without cause will tend to be a notice period, typically reciprocal by employer and employee, where there is no reason that's needs to be articulated.
It's usually like 60, 90 days notice.
60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
Longer or shorter, which is what we talk to our clients about, depending on their situation.
Yep.
Whereas for cause is generally a list of what would constitute misconduct, breach of contract by either party, but more time is spent detailing where the physician can fall short and what might constitute a breach.
Yeah, when we're talking employment contracts for physicians, usually they're being drafted by the employer, and so the employer is focusing mostly on like, hey, you're going to do something wrong, and we're going to get you out of here without any notice at all, right? Or a short notice period, right? So when we think for cause, give me some examples of like what would be a for cause termination.
For cause can be as simple as the physician losing their license, or as blunt as losing their license. It can be criminal. It can be violating hospital policy even.
Sure.
So there's a wide range of what for cause could be.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we see things like bankruptcies or like, something that might harm the reputation of the employer.
Right.
So I think sometimes clients think for cause is like any good reason that they have, right? It doesn't have to be in the contract. It's just, I have a really good reason where I just want to leave town and go somewhere else. Does that qualify as for cause usually?
On behalf of the physician?
And the physician just wants to go somewhere else.
Almost never.
Yeah, right. So I think there's some semantics or some, language that needs to be clarified. It's if you're just wanting to leave, right? And the employer hasn't been in breach of contract, that's your without cause. This is when we're talking about something that's really wrong. So to protect a physician specifically, since these are usually drafted by the employer, what are some of the problems or what are some of the red flags in the with cause section?
What we spend a lot of time looking for would be termination for cause provisions that are subjective potentially or vague. And an easy example on my end that we see more often than others, I think, would be language that reads that conduct on behalf of physician that's detrimental to employer's reputation.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Good question. So we don't know what that means. We don't know who determines that. And that's a little too uncomfortable oftentimes for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you just don't know how to define it, right? So as attorneys, we're sitting there looking at how would I interpret this, right? If the client came back to us 2 years later and said, I just got terminated for cause. If it's a policy or procedure, a lot of times they haven't even seen the policies and procedures. They haven't read them. Those change. If it's hurting a reputation, I don't know who defines that, right? Who gets to decide if Skyler got his feelings hurt, right? We don't know that type of thing. How about you said crimes? I'm curious on this one because I try to softly talk with clients about this. Whenever it's talking about, you're committing a felony or you're, doing something wrong in the eyes of the law, how do you advise them on that one?
Certainly, we want to make sure there's explicit exceptions for what could constitute a minor traffic violation. So while I still may have broken the law, I may have been speeding. Generally, that isn't grounds for termination of my employment. And so we want to identify some exceptions.
It's also hard to talk about, though, isn't it? Because you don't, as an employee, you're getting a job. You don't want to be coming in saying, hey, I do break the law a lot, right? So I need some exceptions to this paragraph.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a little bit of a fine line to walk on how hard to push for certain things.
It is hard to take issue with that. Yeah. And so making sure we have those very explicit exceptions for what could constitute a crime, but be minor in the eyes of the world objectively.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's probably case by case with clients and just talking.
Yeah. Do you ever see like notice an opportunity to cure language where, hey, yes, I did do something wrong. I did violate a policy or procedure, but if I can fix that, give me 15 days, 30 days, something where I'm not in breach of contract if I can correct my behavior.
We see that a lot. And if we didn't find it with respect to potentially being in violation of a policy, we would like to include a notice period. We feel like that's a fitting spot to have an opportunity to cure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So that's, termination for cause can be anything. We're hitting on some of the big ones. You need to be really careful on what's in that because it's not going to give you that notice that you'd want to transition to a new job. So, don't skip that if you're a physician looking at this on your own. Kind of general takeaways, high level advice for clients that are looking at a contract on that section.
With respect to for cause termination, we want to avoid subjective termination clauses or vague clauses. And that's a large amount of what we do for the for cause review.
Yeah, no, sounds great. I appreciate you coming on and talking about it, and we'll have it again.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
You bet.